podcast. I am Craig Hoffman, sitting at WeWork on Broadway, downtown Manhattan, with the oldest brother and CEO of Kitu Life Inc, the makers of Super Coffee. No, this is not the ad. This is the actual podcast. We've been waiting to do this forever. Jimmy DeCicco is here. What's up, bro?
Welcome to New York, brother. Glad to have you up here.
Yeah, I'm glad that we could make this happen on my trip up here. A business trip in a lot of ways, and is adding this to it. Now, we have been partners for, has it been over a year now that we've been working together?
Almost
has it been almost
years,
2? Yeah. It's pretty crazy. You guys were really on the ground floor with us, and in a lot of ways we were on the ground floor with you, and appreciate the partnership. And as my camera crashes over here, we are attempting video of this podcast. And good times. People on YouTube will be able to see my camera go completely sideways. Jimmy efforting to fix this. If it doesn't work, then whatever.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, we'll make it work. It's fine. The gimbal Osmo people, come on. It's all right. We'll just use the two-shot. I'm going to look at this camera now, and you can just keep it.
All right, we're back.
We're back. All right. We're set up. It's fine. We'll just leave it. This is horrible podcasting. I'm going to edit most of this out on the audio version. But anyway, we've been partners for almost 2 years, ground floor. And one of the things that was so cool to us is your guys' story. And we tell that story in our ad in like a 30-second version every single week, with using the other 30 seconds to make sure people go to drinksupercoffee.com and use our code and
Let's go.
Buy some coffee and some creamer. And we also have some other exciting things to talk about that they can buy very, very soon. But I wanted to get into like the actual story, the real longer version of the story with some more detail. So it's your youngest brother. He, as we say in the ad copy, like he's tired of the other drinks. But like we were all tired in college. Why did he decide to go into his kitchen and really start like mixing stuff up? And how did the idea for the MCT oils and the protein, like how did that make its way into the first batch of Super Coffee?
Yeah, no, and I think part of the reason why this partnership with you guys has been so fruitful is given our background as athletes, right? I think that's why we hit it off from the beginning. And we, like you said, we were all tired in college, but Jordan decided to do something about it. I think most of us sort of coast through the motions and settle for what's available. And for a lot of kids, that looks like Red Bull and Starbucks and whatever other energy drinks their school store provides. And Jordan was a freshman in college. He was the starting point guard down at Philadelphia University. And undersized, fighting for his starting spot, fighting to be a leader on the team, and he didn't want to compromise. He didn't want to settle for what existed. So he started brewing his own stuff because what was available just frankly didn't work for him. So he took organic coffee and he added protein to sort of supplement for his workouts. He found himself a lot of times after practice he was having a coffee and a protein drink. He was like, "This is silly. Let's mix them together." So that was like a intuitive decision. I think anybody could put protein in coffee. The more he experimented, the more he learned. He understood the benefits of healthy fats. So we use MCT oil, which is a medium chain fat from coconut oil. And it works with the caffeine as a carrier, so it gets into our blood much more quickly. It's more sustained energy, so it's less jittery, and it's creamy, so it tastes good. And the biggest thing that was slowing Jordan down was sugar and calories. So he totally removed the sugar. So by adding the protein, adding the MCT oil, we add this stuff called monk fruit. It's like an all-natural sweetener, so it still makes it taste sweet and creamy. And he ended up with this very delicious product that gave him energy, and it worked so well for him that he called up me and our middle brother Jake and said, "Hey guys, I'm dropping out of school. I'm giving up my basketball dream to share this coffee with the world because I think we're onto something."
When he first called you, now Jake got in first, right? And then you had like a big boy job, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because as the oldest, you were already out of college and into the world. But as those calls come in, like, what's the reaction as your little brother's like, "Hey, I'm going to drop out of school"?
Yeah, it was crazy because like we don't come from entrepreneurship. Like my dad was an engineer for the city. My mom worked at the YMCA. It was like this very blue collar upbringing, and we didn't know what a startup was. We didn't know what a pitch deck was. Like I didn't know any of these things. So it caught us by surprise. And I mean, Jordan was a kid. he always had this like obsessive personality where Jake and I would park our car and go left to go to high school, and Jordan would go right to the YMCA to shoot free throws. Like he was so dedicated to whatever his mind was set on that once we saw his attention shift from basketball to entrepreneurship, our family had to like seriously consider this. Like, wow, there's no convincing him. And we're all very competitive. Both of our parents were college athletes, so we quickly got behind him and figured out how to support him. And when I got that call and he said, "Hey Jim, as my oldest brother, I just want your blessing that I'm going to drop out of school and go out and try and make something with this." I decided to leave my job. I was working at a bank up here on Wall Street and left to join him. And 3 years later, here we are.
So at what point did it feel real? Because, right, you go from, like, okay, we have this coffee, which we think is pretty good and, like, people would enjoy. But, we've all had ideas that we share with our friends or whatever, and to turn that into a real business is it's not just a very different step. Like, there's a lot of steps that have to happen in that. At what point did it feel like, okay, we're onto something, this feels real, and we're going forward, and there's no turning back? Yeah,
and I think for Jake and Jordan, that moment came a lot sooner than it did for me. Because, like I said, it all started with taking action, right? Jordan decided to take action against the problem that he faced. But a lot of people, even once they do take action, they don't have the resilience or the persistence to see it through. So for the first 6 months, it was very frustrating. Like we didn't have a factory, we didn't have a distributor. We had to sell into stores by ourselves. We had to pour samples by ourselves, stock shelves. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to help us. It was like us sort of willing this thing into existence. And then, as you know, we went on Shark Tank. We filmed an episode of Shark Tank 18 months after we started the company. And at that point, we had good sales. Like the product was selling, but that was really like our debut, like our coming out party. So I would say for me, 18 months after starting the company, I was like, wow, this is something that's going to be bigger than just an idea in a dorm room.
Where do you start? Because there's a lot of logistics that go into these bottles, right? Like you have to be able to produce the product in mass. You have to, because it's one thing to produce one cup in your dorm room for you,
right,
to even produce it for 10 friends, nevertheless thousands of people at a time. You have to find bottlers, as you said, distributors. Like, as people who had no experience in this industry, where did you go to start the logistical process of actually making this a sellable product on scale?
Yeah, so that it all comes back to this idea of like, there's one story that I love, and it really sums up how we got started, and it's how we got into Whole Foods. And once Jordan committed to dropping out of school, we said, look, we're going to do this big. We're going to go big, or we're not going to go at all. We want to share this coffee with everybody. So we go to Whole Foods right in Georgetown on Wisconsin Avenue. Jake was a senior at Georgetown at the time, so we started out of like Jake's college apartment. So Jordan and I go to Whole Foods. Jake's there too. We buy a case of Honest Tea, like just a 12-pack of Honest Tea from the store. We bring it home. We dump out the bottles of Honest Tea. We blend up a couple batches of super coffee in Jordan's blender, fill up the bottles of Honest Tea. We put our stickers. We went to like the FedEx and we got super coffee stickers. We put our labels on them. We went back to that same Whole Foods and we said, hey guys, we're super coffee and you carry nothing like this. And the guy tried it. He looked at it. He looked at his shelf. He was like, this is great. I'll take 8 cases. And just like that, we got into this Whole Foods local program. And that's how we started, man. Like, it started with one store, right? And to your point about like manufacturing and distribution, manufacturer is not going to carry you. They're not going to make your products unless you have like a certain critical mass, right? And you can't have a critical mass without stores. But you can't have stores without a distributor, right? Like, how do you get the product to stores? And a distributor is not going to carry you unless you have stores. So for us, it was like almost impossible to get started. So we're like, screw this. We're going to do it all on our own. We're going to make the stuff. We're going to get into one store. We're going to become the best-selling coffee in that store. And then we're going to take those sales data and go to the next store and say, hey, let's look at what we just did down the street. Let's do that here too. That's what we did for a full year. We got into like 20 or 30 stores from D.C. to Baltimore. We were able to raise some money from some high-net-worth individuals down in D.C., just pitched them on the dream and slowly scaled up to different manufacturers and distributors and retailers. Now we get over 5,000 accounts in the U.S.
Do you still have the original blender?
Oh, yeah. Still got the blender. It's cracked, but we taped it up.
Okay.
Yeah. I make protein shakes with it in the morning sometimes. That thing's going to retire in a museum someday.
Yeah, I was about to say that in the future entrepreneurial museum of super coffee, Kitu Life Incorporated, that needs to be there. The thing that to me is so interesting about you guys, though, is you become so much more than a coffee company. And in many ways you were even at the start, like with Jordan's drive and the passion and the energy. Like in a lot of ways you guys are an energy company. And we think of so many of the people that we talk to on this podcast, the gyms that they work at, like they, and to me it was put perfectly by David Alexander from DBC when he was on a year ago. He's like, look, yes, we train elite athletes. We're into biomechanics. We're trying to change the game. But, like, at the end of the day, like, we're an energy business.
Yeah.
And I feel like you guys are that in a coffee company. How important was that atmosphere that you wanted to set up here? And as the company has grown, like, what are some of the challenges it's continuing to keep that energy as your scale and the people you're bringing into the company become so much bigger?
Yeah, no, it's great. And that's what we say. We say we're a positive energy company. It says so on every label, every bottle, all of our packaging, and our whole belief, our fundamental belief is if you change your energy, you can change your world, right? And what we want to do is empower our customers to choose positive energy. We want to be this choice or this sort of beacon of positive energy. And it wouldn't make sense, like if we started like a salad dressing company or something like this, it wouldn't make sense for us because like we're these high energy guys, we're super competitive, we're driven, and it only makes sense that we make super coffee and positive energy. And I think given our sort of, like this is for Jake and Jordan, this was their first job ever. And so we have no biases into like what a company structure looks like or a corporate org chart or culture. We just created something that a place where we wanted to work with people we wanted to work with. So today we have a team of over 30 full-time people, most of which are former college athletes, and we bring it every day, man. It's like it feels like we're showing up to team organized workouts. It feels like we're showing up to competitions. Like once a quarter, we'll get the entire company together and we'll just throw down in New York City or DC or something like this. And it's super competitive. Like we're up against Starbucks, we're up against Dunkin'. There's so much camaraderie. We use Slack as like our company organization and communication channel, and like we're just constantly posting pictures of displays that we're building or other brands that we're like fighting up against. And it's fun, man. It's like that type of positive energy is contagious, and we're not only sharing it amongst ourselves internally, but we're putting it out into the world with our customers too. Was the college athlete thing on purpose, or did it just kind of happen that the kind of people that you attracted also happen to have the athletic competitive backgrounds? Yeah, I think both, because this industry is very simple. Like we're selling coffee. Our coffee has less sugar and calories than the other coffees. So like there's like, and you can taste it, you can feel it, you can touch it. My point is it's not like tech or finance where you need some sort of technical background. All it requires, it's like the playbook is simple, just requires a lot of effort, and the people who sort of fit that mold perfectly are college athletes. So I don't know, I struggle with this sometimes. Like I don't know if this industry was made for athletes or because we're athletes, we're sort of making the industry work for us, Yeah. I would say like one of the really interesting things from the first time I met you guys, I guess it was really just you, like you, me, Chris, and Marina, who now is doing a really cool project, speaking of athletes, with her podcast. Yep. So go support Marina. I don't want to screw up the name. Just the Jocks, J-O-X, is in my mind. But J-O-X, We Are Jocks podcast, yeah. Marina Paul. So she's doing a great job with that, some really cool stuff. But the four of us went for lunch, and then like as we're leaving, I think is when Chris told me, or asked Chris like how old you guys were, and then realized that you're the oldest brother. Yeah. And it kind of made me feel really unaccomplished in life because you guys are starting this amazing business and had it so well put together. But was there any point in the process with you guys all being so young where you're like, holy crap, we need some adults? Because I can't tell you how often, I turn 29 next week, and there are still times where I'm like, I need an adult around me because I'm not it. Yeah, I think there's definitely that sort of lonely feeling of isolation sometimes. But we've been very fortunate to surround ourselves with the right coaches and advisors. So from like the company's early age, right in the beginning, dating back to Honest Tea's headquarters was right in Bethesda, Maryland, so not far from where we got started. And we reached out to their CEO, a guy named Seth Goldman. He was super receptive and warm. I mean, Honest Tea sold to Coca-Cola for over $100 million a few years ago. So Seth is like the pinnacle of this industry. And we've reached out to guys like that for guidance. And I think given our age, it's people are more willing to coach us and sort of provide that feedback. So we've certainly used that to our advantage. But yeah, there's days where it's lonely. I mean, Jake, Jordan, and I, we live together, we work together, and sometimes we sort of just look at each other like, are we doing the right things? Is this the right what's supposed to be happening? And I think you trust the process. You you work hard, and everything else sort of plays out.
On the flip side of that, what are the times where maybe conventional wisdom has been bucked because you guys, you maybe are told something by someone who has quote unquote conventional wisdom, and you're like, that's not really how I want to do that.
Yeah.
And it's worked or maybe hasn't.
Yeah, that's happened. That's happened more often than not. And I think given the fact that we're so young, like I said, we don't have biases. We don't understand. Like, had we known how difficult this industry was going to be, we wouldn't have gotten into it.
Right.
But given our sort of naive ignorance, it's like we're approaching problems with new solutions that the industry hasn't really seen before. And we're building a team that is an effective team. Like, I think our team could go win a football game, and just as well as go sell coffee. And that's because it's a good group of human beings, a good group of individuals. And that's really the barrier to entry that we're building.
What are some of the things that you've taken from athletics directly? Like, one of the things, and this probably didn't come from athletics, but I don't know, maybe it did. Like, one of the things I thought was really cool as I sat in on one of your calls this morning was the fact that you guys have like a book club and you have a book report. So like team building type of things, culture building kind of things that you take from that athletic realm.
Yeah, the stuff, the camaraderie, right? Like, and it's fun stuff like trash talking each other and sort of driving each other to be competitive. But the biggest thing as athletes that we've sort of embraced is like, there's no shortcut to this. There's no, people want to start a company and be the next Mark Zuckerberg and cash out and become billionaires overnight with this idea. There's no way to do it without putting in the work. And as athletes, like, we've known that all along. So like, we wake up early, we work out, that is just who we've always been, coming up as sort of like undersized athletes through high school and college. And that's like table stakes for starting a company.
Let's talk product. You guys launched Super Creamer, 8-9 months ago at this point?
Not quite. We launched Super Creamer in September of 2018, so about 6 months ago,
Yeah, so was that always in the plan? Did you always want to expand beyond the coffee? Like, when did that become a reality that was something you guys wanted to do? Yeah, no,
I think the other cool thing about doing this is like we're pretty nimble and agile, and we can respond quickly to what the market's seeing. So like, part of the thing with creamer, bottled coffee is a $2.5 billion industry, and there's hundreds of players, right? Dunkin', Starbucks, La Colombe, Hybrew, every brand you see in grocery stores. Creamer is a $4 billion industry, and it's really only dominated by two major companies, which are Coffee Mate and International Delight. So it's a much bigger opportunity with less competition. Hasn't really been innovated. There hasn't been much innovation in creamer. It's usually just cream with artificial ingredients and sugar, to dilute your coffee rather than enhance it. So for us, that was part of it, and then also this idea that people wanted to personalize things. Not everybody wants a ready-to-drink bottled coffee, whereas some people make their decaf at home or their tea at home or their like French press at home. And now you can add coffee, or now you can add super creamer that has protein and healthy fats. It's like a way for you to control the process.
Yeah, and you can add it to smoothies, as has been discussed on this podcast. Very, very good addition to your smoothies. And so now the super fun part of this podcast. There's more new product coming. Announcement from Kitu Life Incorporated.
This is the exclusive announcement coming live to the world first right here. So next week, really the first week of March, we are launching Super Espresso. And it is a 6-ounce can, 180 milligrams of caffeine, 3 shots of organic espresso, straight out of Italy. My last name is DeCicco. We come from Italy, so we wanted to tie it back to the roots. But the idea is a 6-ounce shot that you can use whenever you need it. 0 sugar. We add the protein. We add the MCT oil. It's going to go for $2 a can. And really that sort of energy solution that we all need when we're just feeling a little down.
And this will be available online and in stores wherever Super Coffee is sold?
Yes. DrinkSuperCoffee.com and Amazon coming in March, and then it's starting to show up in grocery stores like Wegmans and Whole Foods.
Now, I remember on Instagram seeing a bunch of stories of Jordan going around tasting all these different espressos. Like, what was the product development like for him, and what was like the most espresso he ever had in a day?
Yeah, oh man. So Jordan drinks easily over 1,000 milligrams of caffeine a day. And
that's crazy.
For context, that's like 10 cups of coffee. Yeah. And our dad turned 50 last year, and we went to Italy to celebrate his birthday. We spent a long weekend in the Dolomites, which are like the Italian Alps north of Venice. And everybody was drinking espresso at all times. In the morning, after lunch, after dinner, it was just espresso. And it's such a part of that culture, you know. It's such an occasion that it's like a requirement to drink espresso. And for us, we're like, this makes so much sense. It's small, it tastes good, it gives you energy. Like, let's bring this back in a way that's mainstream and sort of practical for Americans. And that was in July of 2018. We started the sort of creation of the recipe and the labels last summer, and we produced the first batch this February.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that until I sat in on that call this morning. I'm like,
yeah.
Wait a second, we got more coming. So I'm excited for that. We've loved being partners with you guys. I mean, it's just, you're the kind of people that we want to be associated with because you're trying to do it the right way. You guys have done it the right way. The energy stuff is obviously right up our alley. So, you know, while you're an energy company, keep making good coffee because it also does really keep us going. I'm glad we finally got to do this podcast.
Me too.
And excited to see what our partnership and what you guys bring next.
Yeah, man, we appreciate it. Thank you guys for the partnership. Let's keep expanding. Let's keep spreading the good word. I think the world needs to see more about what you guys are doing behind the scenes, what's happening behind the scenes, and let's spread the positive energy. It's simple. Work hard and be nice to people.
Yeah, it's simple enough. So I think our next podcast will probably be from Indianapolis at the Combine. So we will see everybody there. I will have super coffee sent to my hotel room. That's what I did last year, and it worked out very well. And perhaps, who knows, maybe we'll get some super espresso sent as well, because those are espresso kind of days. The way I described them previously was those were 2 super coffee kind of days. Those are some long days in Indy, but they're a lot of fun. And maybe we'll have some espresso to power on.
Espresso kind of days. I like that. That's going to be a new caption, a new slogan for us.
I like it. So make sure you check it out, drinksupercoffee.com. The code for us, if you would like 25% off, is Train with the Best. Jimmy DeCicco, appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Craig. Let's go.
Subscribe on YouTube.